Hi, I'm Ben Ferguson, and welcome to your AMAC Weekly News. Impeachment is back again for the second week, and liberals in Congress are actually closer, but without evidence, to their ultimate goal of impeaching President Donald Trump. In fact, these so-called witnesses have only led them further away from what they really wanted, and that was real proof of an impeachable offense. Now, here is just one example of that during the impeachment inquiry featuring former U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, Kurt Volker. Take a look at this on C-SPAN.
Mr. Zeldin asked you in the deposition that in no way, shape, or form, in either readouts from the United States or Ukraine, did you receive any indication whatsoever or anything that resembled a quid pro quo. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the same would go for this new allegation of bribery?
I've only seen an allegation of bribery in the last week.
It's the same common set of facts. It's just instead of quid pro quo, now it's bribery.
I was never involved in anything that I considered to be bribery at all.
Okay, or extortion?
Or extortion.
Okay.
That's right. No quid pro quo. No bribery. No extortion. Now, the only person who has said anything about there being a quid pro quo related to his dealings with the president was Ambassador Gordon Sondland. Now, he said that Rudy Giuliani wanted a quid pro quo for the president, even though the president didn't actually say that to him. Now, while all of this is going on, liberals' favorite president, Barack Obama, is actually criticizing Democrats for going too far to the left. Now, this is not a joke. I'll have all of this for you in just a moment. But first, a quick reminder. Please be sure to share this video with your friends and family on social media. Guess what? It's time for your AMAC Weekly News, and it starts right now. Two weeks in, and another way to put it is, here we go again. We are back in the hearing room to interview more supposed witnesses that will provide absolutely nothing to liberals when it comes to factual evidence as they are attempting to impeach President Donald Trump, also known as a coup. Now, their failure has been so horrific that they have literally had to change what they were supposed to be investigating from one week to the next. That's right. First, it was a quid pro quo. They saw that that was a disaster, so they decided to change it to extortion. Well, that didn't stick. So now they've moved on to bribery. Now, all in all, liberals are failing, and Representative Mike Turner made that very clear in his questioning of former U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine, Kurt Volker. What's this epic destruction of everything that liberals are trying to do to take down Donald Trump? Here it is.
A lot of people talking about their perceptions, their beliefs, their feelings even, what they heard, and their understandings and their thoughts. Ambassador Taylor, Mr. Kent, Ambassador Yovanovitch, and Lieutenant Colonel Vendeman all had conversations with each other and with other people and all had a whole bunch of hearsay. But I can assure you this boils down to just one thing. This is an impeachment inquiry concerning the President of the United States. So the only thing that matters, besides all these people talking to each other and all their feelings and all of their thoughts and understandings, it really only comes down to what did the President of the United States intend, and what did he say, and what did the Ukrainians understand or hear? Ambassador Volker, you're one of the first people that we've had in these open public testimony that's had conversations with both. So I get to ask you, you had a meeting with the President of the United States, and you believe that the policy issues that he raised concerning Ukraine were valid, correct?
Yes.
Did the President of the United States ever say to you that he was not going to allow aid for the United States to go to the Ukraine unless there were investigations into Burisma, the Bidens, or the 2016 elections?
No, he did not.
Did the Ukrainians ever tell you that they understood that they would not get a meeting with the President of the United States, a phone call with the President of the United States, military aid, or foreign aid from the United States unless they undertook investigations of Burisma, the Bidens, or the 2016 elections?
No, they did not.
You know, pretty much, Ambassador Volker, you just took apart their entire case.
Now, like I said before, the only person saying anything even remotely related to quid pro quo has been Ambassador Sondland. Watch this from C-SPAN.
As I testified previously, Mr. Giuliani's requests were a quid pro quo for arranging a White House visit for President Zelensky. Mr. Giuliani demanded that Ukraine make a public statement announcing the investigations of the 2016 election, DNC server, and Burisma. Mr. Giuliani was expressing the desires of the President of the United States, and we knew these investigations were important to the President.
Now, let me make this clear. When Sondland talked to the president, Donald Trump said, and I quote, "I want no quid pro quo. I want Zelensky to do the right thing." Now, Sondland is only presuming that a quid pro quo exists. You literally cannot impeach a president based on second-hand presumptions. Which brings me to the best Trump script reading, also known as chopper talk, just before Donald Trump boarded Marine One. Now, the president explained his conversation with Sondland literally minutes after Sondland admitted before Congress that there was no quid pro quo directed by the president. Take a look at Donald Trump reading some great sound bites.
I'm going to go very quickly, just a quick comment on what's going on in terms of testimony with Ambassador Sondland. And I just noticed one thing, and I would say that means it's all over. What do you want from Ukraine? He asks me, screaming. What do you want from Ukraine? I keep hearing all these different ideas and theories. This is Ambassador Sondland speaking to me. Just happened. To which I turned off the television. What do you want from Ukraine? I keep hearing all these different ideas and theories. What do you want? What do you want? It was a very short and abrupt conversation that he had with me. They said he was not in a good mood. I'm always in a good mood. I don't know what that is. He just said, now he's talking about what my response. So he's going, what do you want? What do you want? I hear all these theories. What do you want, right? And now, here's my response that he gave, just gave. Ready? You have the cameras rolling? I want nothing. That's what I want from Ukraine. That's what I said. I want nothing. I said it twice. So he goes, he asked me the question, what do you want? I keep hearing all these things. What do you want? He finally gets me. I don't know him very well. I have not spoken to him much. This is not a man I know well. Seems like a nice guy, though. But I don't know him well. He was with other candidates. He actually supported other candidates. Not me. Came in late. But here's my response. Now, if you weren't fake news, you'd cover it properly. I say to the ambassador in response, I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky, President Zelensky, to do the right thing. So here's my answer. I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky to do the right thing. Then he says, this is the final word from the President of the United States. I want nothing. Thank you, folks. Have a good time. I'm going to Texas.
Now, let's take just a moment to also remind you about the most important soundbite of this hearing so far. Take a look.
Did the president ever tell you personally about any preconditions for anything?
No.
Okay, so the president never told you about any preconditions for the aid to be released?
No.
The president never told you about any preconditions for a White House meeting?
Personally, no.
You said you didn't have your records or your documents from the State Department, but if you did, there wouldn't be any document or record that ties President Trump personally to any of this, correct?
Boy, I don't want to speculate what would be on
your documents or records.
I don't recall anything like that.
Okay.
No.
Now, to be clear, Ambassador Sondland has absolutely no proof that there ever were any preconditions requested by Donald Trump. Let's take this liberal ridiculousness even further. In the Tuesday hearing with Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, Adam Shifty Schiff once again basically told the world he knows exactly who the whistleblower is, while simultaneously lying and saying, no, I don't know who it is at all. Just take a look at just another moment that aired on C-SPAN of this partisan in Adam Schiff and how Representative Devin Nunes decided, you know what, I'm going to smack you around a little bit for lying.
As you know, the intelligence community has 17 different agencies What agency was this individual from?
If I could interject here, we don't want to use these proceedings.
It's our time,
I know,
Mr. Chair.
but we need to protect the whistleblower.
Please stop.
I want to make sure that there's no effort to out the whistleblower through the use of these proceedings. If the witness has a good faith belief that this may reveal the identity of the whistleblower, that is not the purpose that we are here for, and I want to advise the witness accordingly.
You testified in the deposition that you did not know who the whistleblower was, or is.
I do not know who the whistleblower is. That is
How is it possible for you to name these people and then out the whistleblower?
Per the advice of my counsel, I've been advised not to answer specific questions about members of the intelligence community.
Are you aware that this is the Intelligence Committee that's conducting an impeachment hearing?
Of course I am.
Wouldn't the appropriate place for you to come to testify would be the Intelligence Committee about someone within the intelligence community?
Ranking member, per the advice of my counsel and the instructions from the chairman, I've been advised not to provide any specifics on who I've spoken to inside the intelligence community. What I can offer is that these were properly cleared individuals, or was a properly cleared individual with a need to know.
What's so amazing to me is the fact that Adam Schiff truly believes that the American people are really stupid, that we're really dumb, that we're going to believe him when he says that he doesn't know who the whistleblower actually is, when clearly he knows who the whistleblower is. Now, the GOP members of the committee continue to show just how stupid their attempt is at not only attacking the president, trying to impeach him, but also claiming dumb things like this, that they don't know who the whistleblower is. It was a spiral effect for days. Now, one of the superstars in the entire process has been conservative Representative John Ratcliffe. And he proved once again that the newest attempt to catch Donald Trump, well, it's pretty much an epic failure. Take a look at what Ratcliffe was able to do in just 60 seconds, busting almost all of the claims of bribery that the Democrats had been setting up for an entire day.
For the longest time, this was all about quid pro quo, according to the whistleblower complaint. But after witness began saying there was no quid pro quo, or even that quid pro quo was not even possible, we saw a shift from the Democrats. They briefly started to refer to the president's conduct on the July 25th call as extortion. And now it's shifted again last week to bribery. Ms. Williams, you used the word unusual to describe the president's call on July 25th. Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, you used the word inappropriate and proper. Now, I've word searched each of your transcripts, and the word bribery or bribe doesn't appear anywhere in that. Ms. Williams, you've never used the word bribery or bribe to explain President Trump's conduct, correct?
No, sir.
Colonel Vindman, you haven't either.
That is correct.
The problem is, in an impeachment inquiry that the Speaker of the House says is all about bribery, where bribery is the impeachable offense, no witness has used the word bribery to describe President Trump's conduct. None of them.
If you look at the economy, if you look at the numbers of people that are on food stamps and the massive reduction we saw that was announced last week, it's very clear that the president is only working to make our country better. And what Democrats are doing is pushing a coup, a sham, an impeachment, and basically trying to take all of that away from all of us. Now, the president can't even get the House to pass a completely bipartisan USMCA trade deal this past week. They also just voted to extend the deadline to pass the annual budget because Democrats refuse to work and do their day jobs because they're trying to overthrow the government. Now, if they fail to pass the budget, our country, including our men and women in uniform, well, they're not going to be able to do their jobs or even take care of their families. All of this because liberals want to remove a duly elected president of the United States. This is what an actual coup attempt looks like, my friends. Now, Nunez brought all of these points that I just made home in one statement. Watch this from PBS NewsHour.
No witnesses have identified any crime or impeachable offense committed by the president, but that doesn't matter. Last week, the Democrats told us his infraction was asking for a quid pro quo. This week, it's bribery. Who knows what ridiculous crime they'll be accusing him of next week. As witnesses, the Democrats have called a parade of government officials who don't like President Trump's Ukraine policy, even though they acknowledge he provided Ukraine with lethal military aid after the Obama administration refused to do so. They also resent his conduct of policy through channels outside their own authority and control. These actions, they argue, contradict the so-called interagency consensus. They don't seem to understand that the president alone is constitutionally vested with the authority to set the policy. The American people elect a president, not an interagency consensus.
One thing is for sure, our founding fathers would turn over in their graves if they saw what liberals had turned this country into. And that is why we need to band together now more than ever and stand side by side with President Donald Trump. Now, AMAC is here to make sure that your voice is heard. They're making sure that this happens. They're making sure that the liberals in Washington do not drown out your voice, especially during this impeachment process. Not too long ago, there was a time when Barack Obama was treated like a rock star among the left. I remember when many liberals would do anything they could to grab onto the coattails of the former president, begging him to come on the campaign trail for them or endorse him. Well, something has changed. Apparently, they're not happy with him now. Why? Well, because he told them the truth this past week. He actually told them that the message of the radical Democrats and what they're selling to the American people right now will not win in 2020. He's right, by the way, and Donald Trump is actually the guy they hate the most, but Barack Obama, well, he may come in a close second now. He told the truth to the Democrats, and now they hate him. Now, it's literally the most rational thing I think Obama has ever actually said in public. Watch this report from CNN that lets you listen to what Barack Obama had to say.
Even as we push the envelope and we are bold in our vision, we also have to be rooted in reality and the fact that voters, including Democratic voters and certainly persuadable independents or even moderate Republicans, are not driven by the same views that are reflected on certain, left-leaning Twitter feeds, or the activist wing of our party. This is still a country that is less revolutionary than it is interested in improvement. They like seeing things improved, but the average American doesn't think that we have to completely tear down the system and remake it. And I think it's important for us not to lose sight of that.
Now, Barack Obama right there was telling the truth. So what are liberals doing in response to it? Well, they responded to this by making the hashtag #TooFarLeft go viral on Twitter. A former Clinton Kerry advisor, he tweeted out, taking full credit for the hashtag, saying, yes, I started the #TooFarLeft hashtag partly in response to Obama's comments. But that wasn't the main reason. #TooFarLeft is the default attack line by the entire political/media establishment to dismiss progressives and leftists who want a better world. Now, Peter also tweeted out a week before Obama even made these comments, quote, I had a nightmare. America moved too far left, and everyone had health care and dignity at work and free college and a clean environment. Terrifying. But thankfully, establishment Dems jumped in to slam those ideas as unrealistic, and then billionaires saved the day. Phew. Now, this hashtag has even reached all the way to Capitol Hill, where members of the extreme liberal squad, Ilhan Omar, decided to flex their emoji guns in her tweet hashtagging #TooFarLeft. Ilhan Omar said, quote, if being too far left means believing health care is a human right Future generations should live on a healthy planet. All student debt should be canceled. The minimum wage should be $15. Lives depend on gun reform. Families don't belong in cages. Count me in. Now, liberals have gone so far left that they are attacking their former favorite president, Barack Obama. This is what the Democratic presidential candidates and the establishment are battling, all while trying to impeach President Trump and also win an election. So if we stand together, I have a feeling we can easily give President Donald Trump an even bigger victory in 2020 than he got in 2016. And based on their tweets, I think they're afraid it may actually happen as well. That's it for this edition of your AMAC Weekly News. Quick reminder, if you haven't joined AMAC or renewed your AMAC membership, do it right now so you can continue to receive access to the show and our amazing member benefits. Don't forget, you also get the AMAC magazine. Now, most importantly, AMAC is representing you and more than 2 million other conservatives on Capitol Hill every day. It's very important, especially during this impeachment inquiry. So make sure you join or renew your membership to AMAC right now. I'm Ben Ferguson. I'll see you back next week for our next episode.